everybody, welcome to day 12. This is the last day in this tutorial series and welcome to my messy kitchen. We are doing something a little bit different today. As you can see, I am on my kitchen table here and I've got kind of a unique assortment of things for my kitchen. I have you know, my board and my rolling pin and stamps and ink. So we're doing something a little bit different. This is salt dough, and you'll find the recipe for this on my blog. It's really easy, super simple to make. And I've just got it rolled out, just like cookie dough. This is probably a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch. You can go thicker or thinner, depending upon what you're looking for. And what we're gonna do to this is completely new to me, so this is gonna kind of be like an experiment in this video, and then at the end of the video, I'll kind of show you how it turned out. So let's get started. Like I said, I've got my salt dough all rolled out. And I am actually going to be doing some stamping on this dough. And we're going to try it a couple different ways, and I'll be able to tell you what ends up working the best. So I'm starting out first with a clear acrylic stamp from Paper Tray Ink. And I've got some Stampin' Up! Dye ink. And I'm trying to keep my inks away from the flour, but I do need to have flour on my board to keep the dough from sticking. So this first combination is going to be an acrylic stamp from Paper Tray and dye ink. So I'll just ink that up really well. Go in on my dough, press it straight down, press gently in to get that pretty embossed look, and I'll lift straight up. I've got some biscuit cutters here, and I'm going to try to find the size that fits best with the tree. Maybe I could even go one smaller. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and cut out my ornament. Oops. Very gently lift it off, and I am placing that on a baking sheet. And next I'm going to try a red rubber stamp. This is a cling stamp, but it doesn't make any difference if it was a wood mounted stamp. This one's from Amuse Studio. And I've got a red rubber stamp and dye ink again. This is Paper Tray dye ink. So I'm just going to stamp straight down, press down very gently, try to press down as evenly as possible. Lift up. And again, clean your stamp off really well. You want to make sure you get all that food off your stamp. And again, I'll go in with my biscuit cutter, cut out my stamp, really carefully, and transfer it to my baking sheet. This time around, I've got another acrylic stamp, again from Paper Tray, and I've got this time pigment ink, and this is from, this is the Amuse Studio ink, so I'll just ink up my stamp really well, and I will stamp straight down, press gently, lift straight up. And that time we didn't get a really good impression, so let me try one more time just for the sake of science here. So I think we can safely say that either that stamp was too intricate, or perhaps this just doesn't work with pigment ink. So let's try the same stamp with dye ink and see what happens with that combination. And I think it's probably the stamp is too detailed for this project. So I'm bringing my tree stamp back in and my Amuse Studio pigment ink, and this, we already know this stamp worked pretty good with the dye ink, so let's give it a try with the pigment ink. I'll just stamp that down, press a little bit, get that pretty indentation, and lift up. And actually that one, that time, worked quite nicely. If you don't have the right shape cookie cutter, or you don't want there to be a circle around your image, you can always go in with a knife, and you can just go ahead, I'm actually going to put my ink pad away so I don't get food in it, and you can just go in and kind of cut out your stamped image however you want your final ornament to be. And now of course we've got one more combination to try, and that is a red rubber stamp and pigment ink. So again, this is an Amuse Studio stamp. and I'm using Studio ink. Stamp straight down, press gently, lift straight up. And again, you can kind of see the edges of the stamp. I probably pushed a little bit too hard, but that's okay. It's really subtle. It doesn't bother me. So I would say that worked out pretty good. So now, of course, the last thing we need to do before we bake these is, if you're going to be using them as ornaments, you're going to want to make sure that there's a hole to hang them in. And I have here a chopstick and a toothpick. You could use a straw, you could use a kebab skewer, whatever you happen to have lying around the house. So if you want a really, really nice fine hole, you're probably going to want to use a toothpick. So you just kind of go poke it through and squiggle it around a little bit till you get the hole the size you want. And that way you'll be able to thread some twine or some ribbon through. The chopstick actually works perfectly. I'll just kind of push it through, twist it around a little bit. Take a look at it, make sure it went all the way through. If you have a straw, actually, that works really nice because it works as a small cookie cutter and it takes that extra dough out with it instead of just pushing it to the side. So go ahead and make sure that you have hanger holes punched in all your ornaments. And now these can go into the oven, and we are going to bake them at 250 degrees for about 4 hours or until they are completely dried and hardened. So here's what all of my final ornaments look like. After baking them in the oven for about 4 hours, you can see that all of the combinations that I used, the red rubber and acrylic stamps and dye and pigment inks, all seem to have worked out just fine, and they mostly kept their color after baking. I just wanted to say you can also let this salt dough air dry, but it can take several days up to a week or more, but it will maintain a lighter color, more of the original white color of the dough if you don't bake it. If you do bake it, they come out looking more like cookies, which I think is kind of a cute look for these ornaments to have on your tree. And for some reason, when I baked these, the centers kind of puffed up a little bit. I'm not quite sure, what the reason for that was, but again, they look like cookies and they're cute, and once they're on your tree, nobody's really going to see a little detail like, that the center is a little bit taller than the rest of the ornament. So thank you very much for joining me for this video and for all my other videos in this series. I hope you have enjoyed the projects that I've shared with you, and I hope you'll give some of them a try. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season with your friends and family. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye. You can move it around on the ink pad. You don't have to get it all inked in one place.